What's going on, boys? Tricks Ridiculous back again with another video, and as promised, this is my full Captain America build guide. Now I have all my gear in a pretty good place where I can confidently speak to what skills to pick and gear perks to look out for to really optimize this build. My gear is not 100% perfect, but I think it's good enough that I can easily solo all content on any difficulty, so I really don't think I need to go too crazy grinding Captain America anymore, but I will point out places where gear can be further improved. Now, if you haven't seen my first video on Captain America and what makes this build OP, I do suggest you start with that video. Link will be in the description, as this video is meant to really add on to what that video started. I can say without bias that I think this build right now is the best in the game, hands down. I'm working on a couple of other build guides for some other characters, but I can safely say that I think I set the bar too high with this build. Of course, I am still coming out with those other builds that I think you guys will really like, as I really do want to explore some more support builds, because I don't think anyone's really focusing on that. I do have a support tank Hulk, just as kind of a preview of what you might be seeing soon. But if you like Marvel's Avengers and you like build guides, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. If we can get 50 likes on the video, that would make me super happy. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, boys, so coming over here, this is the skill tree for Captain America. I'm going to go over the skills that I've picked, why I've picked them, and what other potential options you have that customize it yourself. If you want to take a screenshot of this and just copy it skill for skill, go right ahead. I'll also click over to the mastery one so you can see that as well. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this, copy it piece for piece, and you'll have a fantastic build. But if you want to hear kind of why I picked each build, stick around. So right here on the support heroic, I've gone with Point Man. Really what this does is it taunts all enemies within proximity, as well as gives you a significant reduction in incoming damage. Now you can also go with something like Field Commander. This one's also pretty easy to recommend because it's pretty straightforward. It increases the duration of your rally cry by 5 seconds. The taunt on Point Man isn't super necessary. It can be nice if enemies are really clustered up, but for the most part we're really using this for the damage reduction while we have rally cry. And in my personal experience, I really don't need the extra 5 seconds. I usually have rally cry off of cooldown and ready to use again, even without the extra 5 seconds duration. But if you're not spawning as many heroic orbs as I am, or you're just starting out with the build, go ahead and use Field Commander. You'll be absolutely fine with that one. On the right hand side, I use Hold the Line. Defeated enemies marked by rally cry have a 35% chance to drop a regen pack. This is good just because, you know, we're doing takedowns all the time. We're killing absolutely everybody marked with our rally cry. So just a chance to drop a little more health, get a little more sustainability in here. That would be nice. You could also go with threat control, crit attacks on enemies with rally cry, deal some extra stun damage, but it's not super necessary because when we're in Brooklyn Brawler and we're really right in someone's face, we're not even worried about their stun bar. We're really just looking to get their health down so we can perform a takedown via our ultimate ability. So stun bar, not super relevant from, you know, in our Brooklyn Brawler. So coming over to our Assault Heroic, I like to use Secret Weapon. This one's straightforward. You get 2 charges of the Steamroller ability. You can also use Tidebreaker. I find that it's not really necessary, that extra damage. You can even see right in the little tutorial video, everyone dies from the first hit most of the time, so that second hit's not really doing too much. I feel like you're better off just having 2 charges, gives you a little more flexibility on when to activate them, and we're going to be cooling down our abilities so quickly that if we only have the 1 charge, we're going to be wasting heroic orbs. They're not really going to be going into anything. And then this one on the right here, this one's really a no-brainer. Every 2 enemies defeated with Steamroller grant a heroic orb. This one's absolutely ridiculous. You know, I use the Steamroller primarily on, you know, turrets, flying enemies, things that are easy to kill, right? So when I'm using this and it ricochets off of 6 different flying drones, you know, I'm spawning 3 heroic orbs. It's absolutely fantastic. You get a ton of heroic energy back. I think this is a no-brainer. You can also go with, you know, regen packs. I don't think intrinsic orbs are really necessary, but heroic orbs right now I think are the best thing in the game to try to spawn. It works absolutely perfect with this build. I think this is an easy 2 pick to have here. And then coming over to the ultimate, this one I'll probably never end up changing these perks unless it gets nerfed, but CQC Specialist, basically while Brooklyn Brawler is active, takedowns can be performed on critically wounded enemies. This is the bread and butter of this skill and of this build. So basically, when you're in the Brooklyn Brawler, you don't have to worry about an enemy's stun bar. Once they're at low health, you can automatically give them a takedown. And if an enemy is really tanky and they survive the takedown, you can just do the takedown again because they're still at low health. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's absolutely what makes this build overpowered. Combine that with this second skill, Adrenaline Rush. Takedowns extend the duration of Brooklyn Brawler by 3 seconds. So right there, you're going to be pulling takedowns left and right, sometimes multiple times on a single guy, and you're going to extend that duration, you know, multiple seconds. The funky thing about this, I've tried with a number of different skills. It appears to be, it might even be a glitch, but Captain America's Brooklyn Brawler does not count down during the takedown. Now, when I first saw this ability, I thought, oh, okay, you know, takedowns usually take about 3 seconds to do anyway, so maybe it just gives you back the 3 seconds. That's not the case. It actually pauses the timer on the Brooklyn Brawler, and then it adds 3 seconds on at the end. It's absolutely insane. I think it might be a glitch because it's the only ability that does that. Any other character, even Captain America, his rally cry, this ability continues to tick down during your takedowns. It's just the Brooklyn Brawler, for whatever reason, the timer on it stops when you're doing takedowns. So might be a glitch, might be intended, but regardless, with this combination of abilities, you're able to keep the Brooklyn Brawler up indefinitely as long as you can keep taking down enemies. And then moving over to the mastery tree. So for your combat masteries, I use stun damage on all attacks. This one, you can use this top one here, increase the damage of light and heavy finishers. The problem for me is you don't really get 2 finishers too often. You usually just throw a couple of attacks at an enemy and they're ready to be taken down. But, you know, if it's maybe a really tanky enemy like a Dreadbot, or even like a boss like Abomination or Taskmaster, you can get 25% extra damage on the finisher. It's pretty minuscule. It's not something you're going to really notice. Where I think, you know, stun damage of all attacks, including our ranged attacks, I think that is, you know, much more beneficial. I use Heroic Boost Combat Mastery, so this boosts Heroic Charge Speed by 1% when dealing damage with light or heavy attacks. If you've noticed, when you're using Brooklyn Brawler, you throw that shield out, every basic attack hits like 4 times. So you're able to really crank this up to another level to really get back your heroic abilities there. You can use, again, this one. You don't really get to finishers too often, but if you really want that single target damage, you can go with this. I don't think it's going to be as useful in all cases than this one. And then air juggling, this one is pretty irrelevant. I don't think it's super necessary or super relevant for juggling enemies. So I don't go with that one. And then coming over to takedown specialization, this is the absolute mandatory must-have. Performing a takedown spawns a heroic orb. Every hero in the game, I believe, has this ability. It's absolutely mandatory on every ability. It's the most powerful ability in the game across all heroes, especially powerful on our Captain America because we get a special form of takedowns, and we'll be performing way more takedowns than any other hero because of our Brooklyn Brawler's ability to do it on low health enemies. We're going to be performing takedowns left and right. We're going to be spawning orbs left and right, and then when our Brooklyn Brawler finally cools down, we'll have already collected enough orbs to keep it on cooldown and activated again. So keeping it up indefinitely and also getting our rally cry back and our multiple charges of steamroller back. So don't ever change this skill. Coming over to our ranged attacks, I used enhanced throw. The reason being, I primarily use power attacks with my shield throws. I don't really use light attacks, and both of these above focus on light attack combos. So this one is really the only one that affects power attacks. So I feel like it's the best one for me. Coming over to this middle ranged option, I use Power Throw Stun. You can also just use Power Throw Damage. It's really dealer's choice. I feel like the damage is not necessary because I'm not doing too much damage anyway. I'm only really using my power attacks on whether it's drones or turrets or just trying to break shields of enemies on the ground. you know, I'm not using it to really try to deal massive damage. So I feel like just trying to build some stun meters a little faster is more useful for the team. And then Precision Heroic Dynamo. This one is absolutely fantastic. 15% chance to generate heroic orbs when defeating enemies with headshots. I feel like this says 15%. I feel like it's might as well be 100%. I see orbs coming off of this all the time. And when it says headshots, you know, when you're using Captain America's range attack, well, it ricochets all around. So you're not aiming it. They might all be headshots, you know? I don't know. But from what I can tell, that 15% is the largest 15% I've ever seen. It was generating me so many orbs at one point that I actually thought the game was glitched and was thinking that I was getting the defeat 2 enemies with Steamroller Generator Heroic. I thought that this was triggering on my ranged attack and that it was just glitched. But then I realized, oh no, it must just be this Heroic Dynamo. And it's just the 15% is just might as well be 50%. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's just another way to get your heroics back. Coming over to our efficiency, a lot of the rest of these skills don't really matter too much with the build, but I'll just kind of explain the ones I've chosen and why. Really just recover 40% of our shield block energy when performing a takedown. Pretty straightforward. We're doing takedowns nonstop, so we're going to have pretty much topped off shield block energy at all times. This one here increases the maximum amount. And then this one here further increases the maximum amount. We're not really using our shield block too much. The only thing we're really using is our commander's call. And what that is this ability right here. So what this does, it effectively sends a shockwave, breaks block, and also taunts everyone that it hits and gives you a damage reduction. It costs your intrinsic energy, your intrinsic shield block energy to actually use this. So this is really the only thing we use our shield block energy for. So I just want to make it easier to cast this. There's also what I think is a glitch with this. There are times when you use this and Captain America will automatically block anything that's not a red attack. It's not consistent. It must be a glitch, but it's happened to me a couple of times where you do it and then he just blocks everything automatically and you're basically invincible for like 10 seconds. Again, it's not something I can regularly replicate. I'm going to play around with it and see, maybe I'm just activating things out of order. But as long as you have this on and Brooklyn Brawler up, that's what seems to trigger it. So definitely make sure you kind of incorporate this attack into your kind of rotation while you're, you know, busting face with this build. So really just all the perks here just kind of focus on being able to perform that attack as often as possible once it's off cooldown. So again, here, reduce the cost of intrinsic attacks by 15%, further reduce cost of intrinsic attacks by 15, and then this one actually increases the taunt by 5 seconds. So basically these entire two trees are just focused around being able to keep that commander's call up as well. Honestly, the rest of these perks are not anything we're trying to use in the build. I'm sure once this build gets nerfed, I'll have to kind of look at commander's call and see how we want to make like a commander's call, captain's defense, taunt tank type build, but for right now we're not worrying about any of that, and we're really just going straight for the one taunt and then just blowing everybody away with our super. So that's really it for the skills. We're going to look at gear next. All right, boys, so here we are. We're looking at the different pieces of gear for Captain America, what I've collected, what I think is really good for him. Again, what I have here is not 100% perfect. There are some gaps, but I'll explain kind of what I wish I had on some of these pieces of gear and what you can look out for. Again, important to note that none of this gear is absolutely mandatory. Really, the build is built on skills, so as long as you have the right combination of skills in your skill tree, you can make this build work, but some of these pieces of gear do help out quite a bit. So I'll start with the major artifact. So we're using the Ring of Nibelung. So you don't have to use this one. This is one you get a little later in the game, but this I think is actually the best exotic major artifact in the game right now, mostly for the bountiful perk, which is that first perk, increases amount restored by all orbs of 11.9%. So basically 12% of every orb, whether that be a health orb you pick up, or a heroic orb, or even an intrinsic orb if you do pick some of those up. But mostly what we're looking at are the heroic orbs. Every heroic orb we pick up is going to give us 12% more of our energy across both our support, assault, and ultimate abilities. It's absolutely insane. You get your abilities back so fast. Surplus, 1.2 chance defeating an enemy will produce a random orb. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you when that's proccing, so I couldn't even tell you. And then Cornucopia, activate simultaneously to generate a random bounty of regen heroic or intrinsic orbs. It's okay. I mean, you can use it if you're like in a pinch and hopefully get maybe regen or heroic orbs, but it's also not super relevant. Really, the bountiful perk alone at the top really carries this ring. If you don't have this ring, again, it is something you get a little later on in the quest chain. You don't have to use this. You can also use the Sacred Nornstone of Lethal Will that you get from the campaign, specifically for the Skull's Foresight ability, increasing the duration of all damage buffs by 4 seconds. That's going to add 4 seconds onto your Brooklyn Brawler, so that's extremely useful as well. So really, either of these will be good. I personally lean towards the Ring of Nevelung just because being able to kind of just get that ultimate back quicker, as well as your other abilities, being able to get your Steamroller back quicker, and being able to get your Rally Cry back quicker, super relevant. And also you get a little more health from your health orbs as well, so that's always nice. So coming over to the gear loadout, I use the Haymakers of the First Avenger. So these, and let me actually just preface, I was just going to say, if you look at the kind of melee range defense and heroic ratings, it's a pretty balanced build. He's not like a pure tank or a pure DPS. It's really quite balanced. And I really, not that I was super going for that, but I was really more focused on the perks of my gear more so than the actual stats. Obviously, if you could min-max the stats, that would be nice too. I would personally go for kind of more of a defensive build with this, just because you get so much damage already with your super, that really just having kind of a tankier build would be good. But honestly, it doesn't even matter as long as you have the perks there. Your melee range defense, it could be whatever the heck you want, and you'll be absolutely fine. So looking at the perks of this Haymakers of the First Avenger, the first one there, of course, Brawler's Vigor extends the duration of Brooklyn Brawler by 2 seconds. I think that one kind of speaks for itself. And then the bottom one there, Commander's Call Recovery, 200% increased willpower regen from Commander's Call. So being able to regen, that doesn't come up too much. We're mostly using this for the 2 seconds to Brooklyn Brawler. That middle perk is really the only one that can come as a random roll. I happen to get Cryo on this one. It's not ideal. I would have preferred either Shock or Pim, just because both of those give increased damage to the enemy that you're hitting. But it's really not super relevant. We're really not using too many signature attacks, so it doesn't matter too much. But if you do happen to get this same exact roll with Pim or Shock, that would probably be one of the better options in this slot. Coming over to this piece of gear right here, the shield. So this, it's kind of funny. I ended up getting this piece, and I thought it was a fantastic piece, and then I actually got an even better piece that I'm leveling up. Unfortunately, I burned all of my upgrade modules right into this one before I got the better one. But really, either one of these could work. So I'm using right now the Proficient Buff Resonator. This one, Proficient Buff, gives a 17.2% chance range power attacks grant a damage buff. And then I also have range power attacks deal gamma damage, emitting dangerous levels of gamma radiation. And then 14.5% chance increased stun damage from power attacks. Now, I don't use light ranged attacks. I do use ranged attacks pretty regularly against flying enemies or shielded enemies. I feel like Cap is actually pretty good from range because of how easily the shield ricochets around between targets. So all of these really working well for range power attacks. Of course, the second one I got is pretty much the same thing, except it's Adept Spark Resonator, so chance that hitting an enemy with a ranged critical attack grants a heroic charge burst. So like you might have seen earlier in the skills tree, we already have a perk that it gives you a chance of a heroic orb for a crit on a range power attack. This just kind of adds to that. So another, if you get a crit, you're not only getting that, but you're also getting this. Really just another way to cool down your heroics. Cryo, I think cryo is fine for ranged attacks, just because when I'm using ranged attacks, it might be because maybe I've misfired my Brooklyn Brawler, or I'm playing a little defensive at the time, or maybe just fighting, a boss type enemy. Cryo damage is a defensive type of damage. It slows the enemy down, makes them easier to dodge, and really, really good when you're trying to play defensively. And then, of course, 12% increased damage from power attacks. Well, like I said, I'm only using power attacks, so, a little extra damage there. Honestly, these two are pretty interchangeable. It's really that bottom ability more than anything, the increased stun damage versus just increased damage. I do like stun damage because I do like building that stun bar versus just having pure damage on my ranged attacks. So it's really dealer's choice. I'll probably flip back and forth between them. I don't think it makes too much a difference. But yeah, really, I mean, either of these, anything that really works with range power attacks is going to work really well with this build. You don't really want anything for light attacks. Light attacks for ranged for Captain America are really not going to be that useful. So coming down to this chess piece, honestly, this chess piece is not anything to write home about. And honestly, there's really no good chess piece for this build. So you really just want to get, whatever has good stats or good, decent perks. The only things that are really, unique to Captain America just give you like shield block type stuff. I've gotten a ton of different, specialized gear. Like this one's the chest plate of the first Avenger. There's also the Iron Nomad, the chest plate of Super Soldier. A lot of them really do just give shield block or intrinsic ability type stuff, which is not super relevant. So honestly, I would ditch these and really go more towards just a nice defensive chess piece. This one has double graviton damage reduction. The perfect evading is kind of whatever. Obviously, we do evade a lot in this game, so it's going to happen quite a bit, but it's nothing to write home about. Graviton damage is okay. This chess piece, really anything that you get that you really don't like, you could have cryo damage. One of the perks that I really like is the armored near teammates, if you can get one with that perk. Obviously that depends on your teammates, but playing solo, you're usually going to be okay with that. And it appears to just work as just a generally good perk. So really dealer's choice on the chess piece. There's no unique piece of gear that really does anything special for the build. And then coming over here, the powerful Blitz Protector for the headpiece. So this one that I have is a very, very good roll. You can see there, powerful Blitz, 20% increased damage from power attacks. Again, my ranged attacks are always going to be power attacks, so nice to have that damage. Critical Spark, takedowns grant a heroic charge burst. Absolutely fantastic. We already have a guaranteed heroic orb from our takedowns, so now this is just going to be like a 1 in 5, basically grant you a heroic charge burst as well. So every takedown is going to grant you a heroic charge, but 1 in every 5 is going to grant you 2, so that's fantastic. And then Rampage Spark, defeat 3 enemies in rapid succession to grant a heroic charge burst. Again, also fantastic. This is going to be very easy to do with our Steamroller ability, especially if there's a lot of drones, things like that. So really just multiple ways to get back our heroics. This is an absolutely fantastic headpiece. I wouldn't honestly recommend any piece other than this one. So any combination of perks like this are going to be super helpful. Anything that can bring your heroics back faster, that's what you're going to want to look for. And then coming over to our minor artifacts here. So I have one here that's fantastic. You'll see it's triple resilience, so very tanky. And it's got increased charge rate for heroic assault abilities by 18%, and then 12.5% increased stun damage from power attacks. So again, we're using power attacks specifically on our ranged attacks, and we like to see a lot of stun on those. So really, I mean, we're able to kind of throw our ranged power attack and just build up those stun bars across multiple enemies very, very quickly. And then, of course, increase the heroic charge ability. Heroic assault ability. That is obviously our Steamroller ability by 18%. If I could honestly have 2 of these, I would. If I could just duplicate this ISO and just have it here as well for 35% heroic assault cooldown, that would be fantastic as well. This other one I have here is really nothing fantastic. It gives me a little precision, which I don't really need because our ranged attacks are focused more on stun than they are on damage. And then the heavy combo finishers doesn't really help. As far as, your charge rate, I personally like using heroic assault like this ISO here, but if you're gonna, if you want to use heroic support, that's okay too. If you need to use ultimate, that's okay too. I don't think the ultimate is necessary. I think the Brooklyn Brawler and the Rally Cry come back quickly enough from their cooldowns that you don't really need any more charge rate on them from your ISOs. But the Steamroller ability is obviously one. We hold 2 charges for it, and it's a one-time use, right? It's not like a roaming thing. So really, the faster we can cool that down to keep using it, the better. So that is really it. So, again, if I could have 2 of these in here, that would be great. So, honestly, with this gear here, I'm more than capable of soloing any content, any difficulty. And again, it's really the skills more than anything that make the build work. But really, I mean, if I was going to get any upgrades, it would just be trying to get more PIM or shock damage, and then just trying to get kind of more good defensive capabilities, and then just better stats overall, probably focusing more on defense and possibly ranged damage, just because, when we're in our Brooklyn Brawler, we're such a beast anyway. We're absolutely cleaning house. We don't really even need to worry too much about our melee damage, so having kind of a nice balance of all 3, I think would be nice. But anyway, that's the build, guys. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions about any pieces of gear that you might have gotten to drop and maybe you're not sure if they're good or not, let me know in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to help. And yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to be posting up some more builds. I actually have a Hulk build I'm working on, as well as a Thor build I'm working on. So you'll be able to see either one of those coming up soon here. Be sure to follow me on Twitch. There's a link in the description. And join my Discord as well to find some other players to play with. But that is all from me, boys. You have a great day. Appreciate it.